Most people think retirement is about age. They've heard the number, 65, so many times that it stopped feeling like a choice and started feeling like a fact of nature. You work until you're 65, and then you stop. That's the deal. But 65 isn't a financial number. It's an administrative one. It's the age the government chose decades ago when designing Social Security, calibrated to a life expectancy that no longer applies. It has nothing to do with when you can actually afford to stop working. And yet most people are organizing their entire financial lives around it. Here's what actually determines when you can retire: your savings rate, not your income, not your investment returns, not your zip code or your job title, or whether you got in early on something. Your savings rate, the percentage of your take-home pay that you save and invest every month, is the single variable that controls your retirement timeline more than anything else. And it does so in a way that most people find genuinely shocking when they first see the math. The relationship is not linear. It doesn't scale the way you'd expect. A small increase in your savings rate doesn't just move your retirement date by a few months. It can move it by years, sometimes by decades. The math behind this is precise and reproducible. And once you understand it, you will never think about your monthly spending decisions the same way again. Most people are saving between 5% and 10% of their income. At that rate, the math says you're working for roughly 40 to 45 years before you can retire. That means if you start working at 22, you're retiring somewhere between 62 and 67, right on schedule for the standard model, right on the timeline the system was built around. But what happens if you save 15% or 25% or 40%? The answers are not what most people expect, and the mechanism behind them is one of the most important pieces of financial math most people never learn. I'm Arthur. Today we're going to look at the savings rate chart, the actual numbers, the actual timelines, and the math that proves why what you keep matters more than what you make. If you want this every week, clear numbers, no jargon, subscribe. New video every week. Let's start with the foundation. Retirement is not about accumulating a specific dollar amount. It's about accumulating enough assets to generate the income you need without working. And the key question isn't, how much do I need? Percentage of my current income do I need to replace? This is where most people stop thinking carefully. They look at retirement calculators that ask for a dollar amount, 1 million, 2 million, and they try to reverse engineer a savings plan from there. That approach works, but it hides something important. What you actually need in retirement is a multiple of your spending, not your income, your spending. And your spending is directly determined by your savings rate. Here's the logic. If you earn $60,000 a year and save 10%, you're spending $54,000. If you earn $60,000 and save 30%, you're spending $42,000. These two people need fundamentally different amounts to retire, not because they earn different amounts, but because they spend different amounts. And the person who spends less needs a smaller portfolio to sustain their lifestyle. This is the first of two reasons. The savings rate is so powerful. It does two things simultaneously. It builds your portfolio faster, and it reduces the portfolio size you need. It's working on both sides of the equation at once. The standard framework for calculating how much you need is the 4% rule. The 4% rule says that if your investment portfolio generates a 4% annual withdrawal rate, it has a very high probability of lasting 30 or more years in retirement. This means you need a portfolio that is 25 times your annual expenses. Annual expenses, 25, your retirement number. If you spend $54,000 a year, you need $1,350,000. If you spend $42,000 a year, you need $1,050,000. If you spend $3,000 a year, you need $750,000. Same income, different savings rate, completely different retirement target. And the lower the target, the faster you reach it, because you're saving more per month to get there. Now let's put real numbers to the savings rate chart. We're going to use a standard set of assumptions. Annual investment return of 7% after inflation, the S&P 500's long-run real return, starting from zero savings. Income is irrelevant here. The math works the same at $40,000 or $400,000 because we're working in percentages and ratios, not absolute dollars. Savings rate 5%, you're spending 95% of your income. You need a portfolio worth 25 times 95% of income. At 7% return, saving 5% per year, you reach that target in approximately 66 years of working. That's not a path to retirement. That's a path to working until you die or until you can't. Savings rate 10%. You're spending 90% of your income. Portfolio target 25 times 90%. Years to retirement, approximately 43 years. This is the conventional path. Start at 22, retire at 65. It works technically, but only if you start immediately and never stop. and only if everything goes as planned for 4 decades. Savings rate 15%, spending 85% of income. Portfolio target 25 years to retirement, approximately 37 years. Start at 22, retire around 59. You shaved 6 years off the conventional timeline by saving an additional 5% of your income. Savings rate 20%, spending 80%. Portfolio target 20 times income. Years, approximately 31 years. Start at 22, retire at 53. You are done before most people even reach their peak earning years. Savings rate 25%, spending 75%. Portfolio target lower still. Years, approximately 27 years. Retire at 49. Savings rate 30%, spending 70%. Years, approximately 23 years. Retire at 45. Savings rate 40%, spending 60%. Years, approximately 19 years. Retire at 41. Savings rate 50%. Spending 50%. Years, approximately 17 years. Retire at 39. Savings rate 65%. Spending 35%. Years, approximately 10 years. Retire at 32. Savings rate 75%. Spending 25%. Years, approximately 7 years. Retire at 29. Read that chart again, not as a curiosity, as the actual mechanics of your situation. The difference between saving 10% and saving 25% is not just a financial planning preference. It is 22 fewer years of mandatory employment. If you start working at 22, saving 10% gets you to 65. Saving 25% gets you to 49. Same income, same investment returns. 16 years earlier, and the jump from 10% to 25% is not some impossible lifestyle sacrifice. On a $70,000 take-home salary, the difference is $10,500 a year, about $875 a month. That's real money, but it is money most people are currently spending without a deliberate decision to do so. It is the subscription stack, the car payment above what was necessary, the food spending that is slowly inflated over years of small upgrades. It is not, for most people with that income, an impossible sum. Now let's look at the mechanism driving this more carefully, because it isn't just the accumulation side, it's the target side. Most retirement calculations focus entirely on how fast you can accumulate assets. They say, save more, get there faster. That's true, but it misses the bigger leverage. The real reason high savings rates compress retirement timelines so dramatically is that they reduce the finish line at the same time they increase your speed. At a 10% savings rate, your target is 25 nines 90% of income. 22, 5 times your income. At a 25% savings rate, your target is 75 of income. 18, 75 times your income. At a 50% savings rate, your target is 50% of income. 12, 5 times your income. You're not just running faster, you're running toward a closer finish line. The savings rate compresses both the pace and the distance simultaneously. That's why the retirement timeline chart isn't linear. It curves hard. The higher your savings rate, the faster the timeline collapses, because both variables are working for you. This is the concept behind the FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early, which became visible in the 2010s. The math isn't new. The logic isn't radical. It's pure arithmetic. Spend less than you earn, invest the rest, and the gap between your current age and financial freedom is entirely determined by one number, the percentage you save. The pushback at this point is usually, my expenses are fixed. I can't save 30% or 40%. And some of that is genuinely true. Housing costs vary enormously by location, and not everyone has the income slack to increase their savings rate dramatically. But the evidence suggests that most people in middle-income households are not hitting a hard floor on their expenses. They are spending up to their income because income tends to generate spending unless a deliberate system prevents it. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey, the average American household spends approximately 33% of their after-tax income on housing, 15% on transportation, and 13% on food. That's 61% of income on the 3 largest categories. Transportation and food, in particular, contain enormous discretionary variation. The same commute can cost $200 a month or $700 a month depending on the vehicle. The same weekly food budget can range from $100 to $350 for the same household size, depending entirely on spending decisions rather than needs. The point isn't that everyone can immediately jump to a 40% savings rate. The point is that savings rate is a decision, and most people have not made that decision deliberately. They're saving whatever is left over, which is usually close to nothing, instead of spending whatever is left over after saving. That order of operations is everything. Pay yourself first. Decide your savings rate before you decide your lifestyle. Automate the contribution so it leaves your account before you can spend it. Then, live on what remains. Every personal finance study on savings behavior shows the same result. People who automate savings save significantly more than people who save what's left. The amount available for lifestyle adjusts. Spending compresses to fill the space available. Now let's talk about what an increase in savings rate is actually worth in numbers. You're earning $75,000 a year take home. You're currently saving 10%, $7,500 a year, $625 a month. At 7% annual return, you reach financial independence in approximately 43 years. You decide to increase your savings rate to 20%. That's $15,000 a year, an additional $7,500 per year, $625 per month more than before. Lifestyle goes from $67,500 a year to $60,000 a year. New retirement timeline, approximately 31 years. 12 years earlier, you saved an additional $65 a month. You bought back 12 years of your life. Is $625 a month a lot of money? It depends on what you compare it to. It is a car payment. It is 2 restaurant meals per week plus some streaming services. It is a gym membership plus a couple of subscriptions plus daily coffee. For most households earning $75,000, $625 a month is findable. Not without some reordering, but findable. And that $625 per month is not money you lose. It's money you invest. It builds your portfolio. It works for you 24 hours a day at 7% annual return. You are not sacrificing $625 a month. You are converting $625 a month from consumption to ownership. The savings rate question is ultimately about how long you are willing to trade your time for money. At 10%, the answer is 43 years. At 20%, it's 31. At 30%, it's 23. At 40%, it's 19. The only thing that changes between those scenarios is the percentage of your income you decide to keep. One more dimension worth addressing: the interaction between income growth and savings rate. Most people, when their income increases, increase their spending proportionally. They get a raise, they upgrade the car, they move to a nicer apartment, they start buying things that weren't in the previous budget. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the primary mechanism by which higher income fails to translate into earlier retirement or greater wealth. The most powerful financial move most people can make, more powerful than a pay increase, more powerful than picking better investments, is to keep their savings rate constant or increase it when income goes up. If you earn $60,000 today and save 15%, and in 3 years you earn $80,000, saving 15% of the new income means your monthly savings goes from $750 to $1,000. Your lifestyle has not changed. Your savings have increased by $250 a month. Your retirement timeline shortens. You did nothing special. You just didn't let spending grow with income. People who do this consistently, who maintain or increase their savings rate through income growth, tend to retire dramatically earlier than people who earn more but save the same percentage. A person earning $100,000 and saving 10% is building the same percentage of financial independence each year as a person earning $50,000 and saving 10%. The person earning $100,000 reaches the target faster in absolute terms, but only because the absolute dollars are larger. If the $100,000 earner inflates their lifestyle to match their income, they build no more security than the $50,000 earner. Their finish line grows with their income. They're on a treadmill, not a path. The savings rate is the one number that can't be gamed by income. It is a ratio. It is percent of what you keep, regardless of what you earn. 2 people, one earning $50,000, one earning $200,000, both saving 30% of their income, both investing at 7%, both starting from zero, they will reach financial independence on nearly identical timelines. The person earning $200,000 will get there faster in absolute years because the absolute contributions are larger and the portfolio builds quicker. But the percentage of the journey completed per year is almost identical. Here's the number to remember. For most people in developed countries, a savings rate of 20% or above meaningfully separates their retirement timeline from the conventional model. At 20% savings, you retire roughly a decade earlier than the average person. At 30%, roughly 2 decades earlier. At 40%, your retirement is tied to effort and discipline, not to the calendar on the wall. The single most actionable thing to take from this video: calculate your current savings rate. Take what you save per month, divide it by your take-home income per month, and multiply by 100. That number is your savings rate. If it's under 15%, your retirement is likely on the conventional timeline or behind it. If you want to change that, the mechanism is not more income, it's a higher savings rate. And the first move is not a dramatic overhaul. It is increasing your savings rate by 3% to 5% right now, automating it, and revisiting it again in 12 months, 3% to 5%. On 75,000 take-home, that's $187 to $312 per month. That is your car insurance payment. That is 2 dinners out per week. That is, for most people, findable. And it moves your retirement date by 2 to 4 years. Calculate your savings rate. Increase it. Automate it. Don't touch it. Then calculate it again. That's the whole system.